Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Self-Made Podcast. I'm your host, Trca, and if you're returning, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. And honestly, you guys, this episode, we're just gonna a little backstory to it. This is take two. For the past 2 hours, I've been having a mental battle with the episode because I recorded my episode at 5 o'clock when I got home after a long day. I was really tired and I was like, I'm going to bust it out. I'm going to make it good. And initially my plan, this episode, the plans have been just chaotic. I'm not going to lie. My brother and I had a plan to record like an open mic episode, and we were just going to turn the mics on and we were just going to chat, and it was going to be real, and whatever was on our heart, whatever God wanted us to share, we were going to share. And I'm like, I love that idea, because I was talking to him on our walk last night and I was like, I don't know what to talk about this week on my podcast, because every single week I like to reflect on my past week, and I kind of I pull it from the heart, like whatever lesson I'm learning, whatever I'm kind of going through. I feel like each week kind of has a theme, and this week I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to talk about, and that's not usually the case. And it was really interesting though, because Jake's like, well, what if we just sit down and we just talk, and whatever comes to us. I'm like, I love that. Like, it's really going to be from the heart, because this last week too, it's been chaotic. Since coming back home to Arizona since Christmas, I've had like family members or friends or someone staying like at least every other week. Like, it has been like chaos, and I just had friends. It was the best time ever last weekend come to town. We ran the Mesa half marathon. It was so much fun. They left Sunday night, and my parents flew into town Tuesday morning. And so I've pretty much had people here constantly, and so it's just harder to do like recordings and stuff, because I like to have like my peace and quiet and focus when I'm recording. And so I feel like my brain is just obviously occupied with the presence of like my family and my friends, and I love having them. Like, it's so much fun, but I like to be present. And so I feel like I'm not as reflective on my weeks, and I'm a little sidetracked. So I think that's why I couldn't think of an episode topic, because I really wasn't like reflecting on the week. It was really just a matter of like hanging out with friends and family, but I love the idea of the episode. And so I was like, you know what, Jake, that's a great idea. Anyway, today, Sunday, I upload on Mondays at 5 a.m. CST, and it's Sunday night. We went to church this afternoon, and then we went to brunch after, and then we got home, and it was like literally 4 o'clock. And I was so tired. I'm like, okay, we're going to bust it out. I'm doing the 75 hard. Like, I still have a workout and a half to go do, because I went on a walk before church, but had to cut it short. So I have to finish that and then do another workout. And I'm just tired, but the whole episode that I recorded before this, you guys, like, it was so good. It was from the heart. I literally just started talking, and I never really script out my podcast, but like, usually I have like a theme and an idea of like what I want to talk about. And so when I was setting up the podcast, I started praying, and I was like, God, put something in my heart to talk about, to share. And it kind of came to me that I wanted to talk about perspective, and it was just a very broad topic, and that's what we're going to be talking about again, because I'm re-recording the episode. But again, it's just going to be from the heart, and it's going to be, if I talk about things that I talked about my first recording, I'll continue. But if it doesn't come to me and it's not what I want to like talk about, I don't know, I'm just kind of winging it, but like in a good way, like not in an unprepared way, but like that's how I like to speak. I like to bring it from the heart. And so, yeah, I guess I prayed about it, and that's what kind of came to me. And I just feel like I want to obviously continue it. But the reason the first episode didn't go well is because I had the microphones plugged into the wrong input. I had it into the output, and it wasn't picking up the audio, and I obviously didn't realize until I was going to edit the episode. And then I was just having like a mental breakdown. But literally in the episode, I was talking about patience and trusting God's plan, and understanding like when bad things happen, like it's for the good, and you have to think futuristically and think about the future rather than the now. And I feel like that was God reminding me, like, listen, like, practice what you preach. And I'm over here preaching, like, take the lesson out of everything. And so instead of recording and uploading like a bad quality audio, because like it was like a clicking noise in the audio too, it just didn't sound good, because the audio pulled from my camera, not from my microphones. And there was something going on, and I was honestly just going to upload it, because I'm like, the content itself was so good, but the quality wasn't. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to restart it, because I'm like, obviously an issue happened for a reason. I didn't get to share something I wanted to share with you guys, or I shared something maybe I shouldn't have shared. I don't know. Whatever the case may be. I ended up working out though, because my family, they're all out doing their thing again. So I have the house to myself. I can record. I feel like that taught me a lesson, and it's giving me even more insight to share with you guys. So we're going to hop into the episode. That's the intro, a long one. But yeah, so I guess we're just going to talk about patience and perspective, and the differences between living a life for pleasure and living a life for joy. So these are all the things that have kind of been in my mind the past week and have kind of come to me and have just given me a lot of clarity and realizations. And it's crazy just because I feel like my life has completely changed so much in the past 2 months. Like since January 1st, I really took the time and I started the 75 hard. And when I was starting the 75 hard, I sat down and I was really reflective with myself. And I actually looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I dug deep and I was like, where can I be doing better? Where am I in denial that I'm lacking? Where am I slacking? Where can I improve? Obviously, I can always improve in like every area of my life, but I just knew that there was something deeper that I was kind of in denial about. And so I knew it was like within my habits. So like I eat really well, but my habit of eating was poor. And I wasn't putting myself into a lot of like uncomfortable situations. Like I was kind of off-putting like difficult, uncomfortable feelings, like ice bath. Like that's why I do the cold plunge every day, which actually I just realized I still have to do. Today, it's 7 p.m. Oh my goodness. Okay. But like I was just prolonging a lot of these things and I was going for like comfort and I was seeking comfort and I was seeking pleasure way too often. And I think that's something that society, we really have created a world for like the least resistant path. Like that's what we always take. We love shortcuts. And I've realized that shortcuts deter you from like the journey. And I feel like the journey is like where the richness and the depth of life is at. Like when I'm training for my half marathon, this is a perfect example. It's like, there's obviously such a great feeling of crossing the finish line, running the 13.1 miles. Like the race day is so fun. It's a day to like celebrate all the hard work that you've put in. But the best part to me and the part that I enjoyed the most is the journey. It's the start to the finish. It's doing the runs when I don't want to do the runs. It's PRing. It's learning about myself. It's the thoughts and like the realizations I have on my runs. It's the runner's high. It's the community that I've built within running. It's all of everything I gained throughout the journey. Like if I were to shortcut and just run and start at the start line and just run the half marathon without training and giving myself 14 weeks to prep, like I would lose out on so much of the goodness of it. And I feel like we often in life, we just take the short route. We should take the shortcut because we want that instant gratification. We want things now. And we really neglect waiting and we neglect and avoid patience. And because patience is a virtue, you guys. I have a whole episode talking about patience and self-control and they're so huge, but we just, obviously no one wants to like wait, like we want things now, but like you have to switch your perspective and appreciate the journey and appreciate the things that are going to come along the way of waiting. Like your waiting season is so important. And all of these things are so prevalent in my life. And I finally started, what's the word? Like I finally started getting like the goodness out of waiting, like now, because I finally switched my perspective and I started living for God and I started actually like practicing when I preach, you know what I'm saying? And I actually started implementing these into my life. And now I am gaining like the positive reimbursement. What's the word I'm looking for right now? I can't think, but, and it's so crazy because even in relationships, like being single in the waiting season, I preached like being single, being independent and all of this. But again, I was still over here like not being patient. I was pouring myself into relationships and guys and situations that weren't helping me, that weren't growing me. And I was getting so mad. I was like, God, like I honestly, you guys, I really thought I was gonna be single forever. Like I was getting so anxious about it. And it's because I was settling, because I was getting impatient, because I was feeling lonely instead of switching my perspective to appreciate the solitude and loneliness. Again, I have a whole episode on this. This is stuff I was preaching, you guys, and I understood, but I wasn't practicing because my perspective wasn't fully there. And I wasn't fully honest with myself and I wasn't fully aware of my habits. Like I was doing things I didn't realize. It was like a subconscious action. Like I'm a girl of my word. Like I try my best to do what I say, but sometimes like I don't even realize what I'm doing, and you have to slow down, you have to be patient, and you have to reflect. And it takes time. And I think one thing that's helped me and allowed me to do that is building a relationship with God, because he really speaks to me and like I obey him. Like I can obey God, but it's hard to obey myself. And I think I was living a life for myself previous. I mean, literally, you guys, my podcast is called The Self-Made Podcast, which little secret announcement if you're listening, there's probably going to be a major there is going to be a major rebrand coming for the Self-Made Podcast, because I thought I was creating this all for myself when it was really God. And I feel like I was taking too much of a persona of like independent and be alone and do all this. But it's like, I've realized in the past 2 months how important community is, how important my relationship with God is. Like, I would not be where I am today without the people in my life, without God. Like, I was on a friend's podcast and he literally asked me, he was like, who is Trca? Like, how have you gotten to where you are? And I was like, I sat there and I had to really think about it. And I was like, you know what? There's not much that I've done. It has been all like a compilation of everything I've learned from everybody in my life. Like the people in my life, you guys listening, my followers, like my supporters, my friends, my family, like they have curated me into who I am, because I'm a huge believer that like who you are, who you surround yourself with is who you become. And every single person, like the slightest things, like has pushed me to go down different paths and down different directions. And not all of them were great and not all of them were terrible, but like it shaped me into who I am and it's put me in this exact position that I'm in today. And it's like the influence that I've gotten, the inspiration that I've gotten from my friends and my family, like the belief that they had in me is the reason I am here today. Like my friends and family believe in me more than I believe in myself, truly. And it's opened my eyes because it's like, I need to start believing in myself more. And that's something that I do struggle with, is like, I have a bit of imposter syndrome. I don't realize like the capabilities that I do have. And I think God has been like shedding light on that though more recently. And I do believe in myself more, and I know I have more to give. And I've been getting like little tastes of that. And it's like, it is eye-opening, and it's changed my perspective again. Like, it's all about perspective and your perception. And it's so huge because we can put our blinders on and we can block out all of the perception and all of the perspective that we don't want to see. Like, it's easy to not look when you don't want to see. Like they say, you only hear what you want to hear, you only see what you want to see. And I was only seeing the things I wanted to see, and I was only seeking out the things that were giving me the pleasure and the instant gratification and that were easier. But you guys, I'm telling you, like, it's crazy. I was having a conversation with one of my good friends, and this is another perspective shift I was trying to make her realize, because I've come to realize this recently too. Like, when I say everything I'm talking about in this episode is something I've learned in the last 2 months, I'm not kidding. But one thing I was realizing, I was telling her, because she was telling me about this guy in her life and all these issues, and she was always confused, and it was just reminding me of my past, like the past guys that I've been with in the past 2 years. And I was like, it was just like boiling up inside of me. And I hate giving like honest advice sometimes, because I don't want it to like backfire. Like, I don't mean it in like any negative light, but like, especially when I bring God into it, because I'm way more open about talking about my faith, because I just can't not talk about it. Like, it's such a big part of who I am and a big part of my life. It's like, I can't explain anything anymore without bringing him into it, because he is what I live for. He is my like number one priority, and he's who shaped me into who I am in every decision that I make. And so now it's like all I can talk about, like, you know? So it's like, I'm not trying to shove Christianity down people's throats, but it's like, if people want to hear what I have to say, like, that is the reason I do everything now. But anyway, back to the conversation that I was having with my friend. She was telling me about this guy, and we talked about him before like these 2 months that I've had this like revelation, the perspective shifts that I've been making, before I found Jesus, honestly. And I'd been hearing about him, and like, it was kind of funny, and I was like kind of a fan of this guy, but kind of not. But it was honestly because I was relating so much to her, because I had also a person like this in my life, and I think a lot of us do. But she's like, this man is like truly hurting her. And I don't think he realizes it though. Like, they both don't realize like the hurt that they're causing, but it's like kind of one of those situationships, you know? And she's like, well, it feels so good when I'm like with him, you know? It's like, it feels so good. And just keep in mind, I'm not saying it's all like romantic intimacy stuff, but like some of it is. And I had to look at her, and it just came upon me. You guys, I like, the Holy Spirit was speaking through me. I'm not kidding, because I don't know where this came from. And this is when I had the revelation myself, but I was like, oftentimes the things that feel the best for us do the most harm. They are the worst for us. And the things that feel the most difficult and are the hardest are the best for us. And that's where I kind of had the realization of, you have to live a life for joy and not for pleasure. And this man was giving her pleasure in the moments that they were together, but he was hurting her so bad when they weren't in those moments. Like, those moments are such a sliver and such a small piece of her day and of her life, that she's putting so much of her like energy into it though. You know, she's getting 2% back, and she's giving 98% to him, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, girl, like, it feels good, because that's what the enemy wants. He wants you to be pouring into this man who's not going to give you return. You know, he's not going to love you the way you deserve to be loved and that you should be loved. And he's not making you feel he's making you feel in the moment good, but it's not the type of feel that you should be attaching to. Like, it's not love, it's lust. And that's a big thing I had to realize, because I was like, whoa, like it shocked me, because I was realizing that's what I was doing in my past relationships as well, until I've like recently had this revelation and I've met the most great people in my life. And I've never felt more love without feeling that like lust and that attraction to somebody in my entire life. Like, I've never felt the way I felt. It's like something so different, but it's like, that's how you know it's sent from God. And the enemy, he wants you to feel pleasure. He wants you to live for pleasure. And like, there's really no good in it. Like, you guys, anytime we give in to instant gratification and we give into that, like, that is the, like, discipline is being able to offset what you want now for what you want most. Okay. So think, example, your goal is to lose weight. Okay. And this is not me saying don't eat brownies, but a brownie may not necessarily, in this situation, this brownie does not aid to this person's weight loss goals. Okay. But it tastes good. It's going to taste good. It's going to taste really good right now, instant gratification. But then after, it does nothing for him after. But if he doesn't eat the brownie because he knows it's not aiding his goals, and again, let me preface, it's okay to eat the brownie, but this is just an example so you understand what I'm saying. If he doesn't, one, he's gaining confidence in himself. He's gaining self-control. He's gaining discipline, and he's working towards his goals, okay? So in 2 months, not eating that brownie is doing so much more for him, other than the 300 calories that he's not consuming. It's not about the calories. It's about the mindset shift, the perspective shift that he's gaining by withholding from it and creating that discipline and that trust within himself. And that creates confidence. And that also bleeds into other aspects of your life. So when you're confident, because you can hold a promise to yourself, you guys, you're going to be more confident in life. And that's also just going to elevate you in business and relationships and just the way you present yourself. Like, that's what God wants. Okay. And so when you live for joy and you live for like abundance of joy, like, that is created through becoming the best version of yourself. Like, I want to, like, this is part of my like testimony. I can like literally say this with confidence, is like, right now I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in my entire 22 years of life. And I never thought I was unhappy. Like, I've never been like super miserable, but I do look back and I'm like, I didn't have the same glow I do now. And honestly, you guys, I'm not going to lie. You guys are the ones who pointed it out to me. And I was like, wow, because I was getting all these DMs and it's like, you're glowing. You seem so happy. You're like radiating. Like, there's something different about you. And a lot of them, it was super sweet. A lot of my like Christian followers were like, I can see Jesus like working through you. The Holy Spirit is like glowing through you. And I do believe that's what it is. I found Jesus and I have my like Jesus glow, and it's the most beautiful thing ever. But it makes me reflect on like back this summer, you guys. Like, I was living here. I was so happy. I was living my life. I was making new friends. Like, it was good. But right now it's great. Like, right now it's so great. I've never felt better in my body. I've never felt better in my relationships. I feel the least amount of stress with work. Like, I trust in God's plan and my abilities and my path. And I can feel it. He's opening new doors. He's opening new opportunities. And now I can go to God for that kind of stuff. It's the most comforting feeling, you guys. It eases all of my anxiety. Like, I was a pretty anxious person, and the relationships that God's put into my life, because now I'm seeking relationships through God, they have given me so much return. They are so fulfilling. They made me so happy. And it's like, I've never felt better. Like, I've genuinely am so filled with joy and gratitude from God that it's making me happy. And I think joy and peace, and I'm so at peace. And again, I've talked about this before, like, when I make decisions, the reason I know it's sent from God is when you feel peace and you feel joy about something, you don't feel anxious. And a lot of those like negative emotions, like, that's sent from the enemy, okay? And that's how I realized that moving here was the right choice, because I was praying about it and I was like, I don't feel anxious. That is so weird. Cut some friends out of my life. I wasn't anxious. It was weird, but that's God sent, okay, you guys? And the return on it, I had to create new friends down here, and I seek them through my church, and they're the most amazing people. When I'm with them, they fill my glass up, okay? And that's another thing I wanted to talk about, actually, is, okay, let me finish this and I'll go back to friends and that. But I've just truly never felt better. And I think peace and joy create happiness. Okay. We're not always going to be happy. I'm not always happy. I still get anxious. I still get sad. I still get stressed. Guys, right before this episode, I was so stressed out. I was like, why is this not working? But again, I had to go to God, and I was like, okay, I know there's a reason for this, and I trust in your plan. And when things go wrong, there's always a right. Every negative has there's a positive to every negative. And you have to have that perspective shift. And that's literally what I was preaching. And then God tested me, I swear, by this episode. And this is me living it out and like showing you guys, like, this episode's going much better than my first, honestly. So I'm glad I'm re-recording it. But like, in the hardest times, like, it's so easy to just like turn to instant gratification to make you feel better in that moment. And it's so easy to listen to the enemy, because the enemy doesn't sound like the enemy necessarily. It's hard to depict the two, okay? And that's one thing I've realized is like, you have to trust the intuition and the feeling that you have, and the feeling of like peace and calmness and joy in your decision, that's sent from God. But if it's something else, it's probably not sent from God. And again, it's still something I'm learning and I'm getting used to understand. It's, guys, like, this is like within 2 months. Like, this is 6 to 8 weeks of my life that I'm like realizing all this stuff. So one, so much growth can happen so fast. So if you feel like you're like down in the dumps, one, patience is huge and the waiting period is huge. But again, like, God can work in the right timing. And I guess I'm like high on Jesus, honestly. So like, a lot of these things are coming quickly to me, but it's because I'm spending so much time in prayer and so much time in the Bible and at church and in the community to inspire that I feel like I'm putting myself in the right environment. My ring light just died. Of course it did. Back to what I was saying though, is like, just living a life of joy is just, it's truly like, it shows from the inside out. It really, really does. And it makes everything in your life just so much better. So I've had to learn how to put off instant gratification and pleasure. Like, in every aspect, you guys, it's my relationship with food. It's my relationship with training. It's like, it's holding yourself accountable and doing the things you don't necessarily want to do. Like, again, it's hard. Life isn't easier, but it's better, you know? Like, I'm doing the harder things, but I have a better return on it. Like, I feel better. It's fueling me. It's taking me further because I'm doing what I need to do, you know? And so we need to stop just like falling into that trap of instant gratification and pleasure. And we need to be focusing on joy and living your life for joy and what's going to bring you joy in the long run. Okay. So you need to think about, like, futuristically, like, does this decision support and aid where my goals are like intended to be? Like, is this going to get me to where I desire to be? Oftentimes it's probably not, because we probably are going towards the easier route, you know, the shortcut, like I said. So have that perspective switch and be able to like view decisions that you make based upon that. And it will change your life. It really, really will. And yeah, that's what I have to say about that. But now I'm going to go back to talking about friends. And it is really, like I always say, your community, I made a whole episode on this last week, but like, your community and the people you surround yourself with, it does shape you into who you are. And I've seen that firsthand, because God truly had to pull most people away from my life. Almost everyone, you guys. I mean, I moved across the country. I knew nobody besides my brother. And I've made all new friends, and they have been so amazing. And even my social media friends, like, that are across the country, like, when I'm with them, like, it's so like, everyone in my life right now, I just seriously admire and I value and I appreciate so much, because really, like, when you're with people, you guys, truly, like, sit back and think to yourself and ask yourself, like, do you feel drained, or do you feel like they're filling your glass? Do you feel energized? Because I'm reading a book right now and it's called The Energy Bus. It's a great book. It's about like the power of like the energy that you're giving off, and they're talking about like energy vampires, and essentially those are people who like drain you and just suck the energy out of you and just leave you depleted and exhausted. Okay, I've been around those people. If you're on those people where you're like, you gotta take a deep breath and you come home and you're tired and you just want to go to bed, and you just when you're with them, you're kind of like, okay, like, I'm worn down, I'm worn out, I want to go home. That's an energy vampire. But the people, when you have the right people in your life, they're going to fill you up. Perfect example was this past weekend. I had my friends in town for that half marathon. Guys, we were running on like 5 max hours of sleep at night. Like, me and my friend Sienna, we'd stay up till 1 a.m. talking and just chatting. And one morning we had to get up at 3 a.m. for our race. Literally, then we ran a half marathon. We went hiking. We were so busy the whole weekend. Going to bed at like 1 a.m., waking up between like 3 a.m. and like 7 a.m. Like, we were getting very little sleep, but I was never once tired. I was so filled up. I was so energetic. I was so happy. We were chatty. We had the most in-depth, rich, wholesome, genuine, heart-filled conversations I've ever had. Like, we would be driving to the race. We were driving to a mountain. We were driving to get ice cream. Like, we're sitting there. I have my like worship music on. it's just playing super quiet in the back. We're all talking the whole time, and they're not just like surface level conversations, you guys. Like, these are like just truly like heartfelt, genuine conversations, and we're over here like supporting each other and giving each other advice and helping each other. And like, that's the kind of relationships you need to be having in your life. Community is everything, and you can't do it on your own. I thought I could do things. I thought I could just kind of focus on me, and I thought I was going to get to where I wanted to be alone if I just like hunkered down and I just grinded, which I do think solitude can serve you, but it is not a permanent thing. You got to get out of that, and you got to kind of pull yourself out of that and find community, because it is hard. It's scary sometimes, you guys. It's intimidating to meet new people, but oh my gosh, the joy that they can bring you and the insight and the value that they can bring you is like so amazing. It's so fulfilling. And just like, as humans, like, we desire and crave like relationships, and like that connection between people, and you can't do it on your own. You really like, you can't. If you think you are, like, I thought I could, and I'm like, now that I have the right people in my life, I've never been more inspired, more motivated, more excited for the future. Like, knowing I have people to like support me. They don't need to do it for me. They don't gotta like, I'm gonna put in the work myself, but like having the support and just like knowing I can call somebody up or they can talk me through something, like, that is what's important, because that's what's going to get you through those moments. Like, you can't always be disciplined. You can't always like rely on your grit and hard work. Like, you need that support, and again, it's like, you got to make sure they're like the right people, and like, for me, like, God sent people, and these people don't bring me any anxiety. They don't bring me any stress. Like, I'm not leaving the situation and like the hangout or whatever, like questioning myself if they liked me, or if, like thinking about what they thought of me. Like, I used to do that. I did. And a part of that is because of immaturity, but a part of that was also the people I was with. Like, if they're genuine friends, that shouldn't even really like be a thought in your mind, and the people in my life, though, it's like I leave and I'm like so inspired, and I'm just like thinking about it, and I'm sharing with my friends like different things that we did and said, and like good things I can like obviously share with other people. I do keep private stuff private, but it's just like, it's really crazy how much of an impact it can make. But yeah, I'm just telling you, like, having a positive perspective on every situation too, like, it does a lot. Like, the energy that you carry is huge, and it really truly, it's unbelievable. Like, like I said, like, every negative has a positive, and I think it's super easy to kind of focus on the negatives, because it's like, poor me, pity me, victim me, and then I feel like that's where we kind of are like reaching for like people to pour out into us. But it's like, if you just had a positive approach, you're going to attract more positiveness to you. If you're negative, you're going to attract the negativity. And that's a huge thing I learned. And it's so crazy, because it's like in business, it's in relationships, it's in friendships, it's in every aspect of your life. And yeah, you guys, this is all the things I've been thinking about in my mind. I'm like, do you guys like this style of episode where I'm just sitting here chatting? Because this is me just brain dumping on you. It really is. But it's just crazy how much insight I feel like I've learned. Like, I literally feel like a new person. I feel so different in the best way possible. And it's just because my perspectives have switched and my priorities have changed. And like, I live a life for God, and my relationship with God is number one. And I feel like it's so important to have that, because then it's, the better your relationship with God is, the better relationship with yourself is going to be. And then the better your relationship with yourself is, the better your relationship with others is going to be. And that's what creates such a positive, beautiful life. And I just didn't have the relationship with God before. And I think that's why the relationship with myself wasn't as good. And then again, my friendships weren't as great, and the relationships I was like seeking weren't serving me. But now it's like, it's so much better. It's so much better. And it's wild. And again, like I said, I'm not always happy. I'm not always feeling great. Like, actually, one thing I do want to talk about is the closer that I've grown with God, the more I've felt like a sinner. Like, I have so much conviction, and I feel conviction, and it's in the slightest things, you guys. It's in the slightest things that I never even thought twice about before. Like, example, I've talked about this too, but like, the way I dress, I want to dress more modestly, more feminine, and more mature. And it's not because I feel like it's bad if you don't, but it's like, that's just my perspective has changed. And like, again, what you give off is what you're going to attract. And so it's like, I want to attract a man who values me for being like modest, you know? I don't want to like feel like I need to wear tight, skimpy little outfits to attract a guy, because whoever that's attracting isn't the type of guy I want to be with. It's not. And again, that's just a maturity thing. Don't get me wrong, y'all. Like, I've worn my tight, short, little itty bitty dresses, but it's really funny because just the other night I was with my parents. We were driving down Tempe, ASU's campus, Arizona State, and it was like their sorority frat night for like Valentine's Day. So there was like, I'm not kidding, hundreds, I mean hundreds of little sorority and frat people getting onto these party buses. And this is nothing against sorority and frat people. I was never in one, and I'm pretty grateful I never was, because that's just not my vibe. But I out loud, and I've never said this, I'm like, dang, those dresses are short and tight. And I was like, oh my gosh, if you saw my closet back in college, like I was wearing that. I was wearing that stuff in high school. Like, but now my perception and my perspective has changed so much since I've just like obviously grown up and matured, but like found God. And like I see why all the adults were like, that's too short, that's too this. It's like, because it is. I was like, whoa, what is going on? I was shocked. But it's so funny just because a lot of my life has been like that now. And I'm just having these like moments where, like, guys, I don't even really swear anymore. And I'm not going to lie, I had a potty mouth. And you might not know that because I did try my best to filter myself on social media, because the thing, it's funny, deep down I knew it was wrong. And I feel like that was God being like trying to tell me, like, if you don't do it on social media, why would you do it in person? Because I do pride myself in being as authentic as I am on social media as I am in person. Like, when you meet me in person, I hope that it's the same interaction that you expect to have and like that I give off in social, like on my platforms. But one thing I did have, I had a potty mouth. But again, too, it's because the environment and the people I was surrounding myself with, I'm not putting blame on them because this was my choice, but they were swearing a lot, like all the time. And so was I. Like, I was the type of girl, when I was trying not to swear, I'd drop an F-bomb, and then I'd be like, oh, and then I'd say the S word. I'd be like, oh, and then I'd be like, oh, and it was like continual. Like, I would like back to back to back say swear words. And now every single time I swear, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, I apologize because I'm embarrassed a little bit. Like, it's just such a, I don't know, like, ugly way to speak when you could speak so much more feminine and beautiful and light and just positive. Like, I just feel like it's like there's a lot of negativity that kind of weighs down with swear words. And it's, guys, it's so funny because I'm not gonna lie, it's still something I'm working on. But now every single time I swear, I do like catch myself and I'll like cover my mouth, and like you can see, I literally apologize to whoever I'm speaking to, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I did not mean to say that. Like, it slipped. I'm working on it. It's a work in progress too. You got to give yourself some grace. Because my intention isn't to like drop an F-bomb in the middle of a sentence. It's not. But like sometimes it's out of habit, you know, from my past. And it's funny though, but it does help when you're around people who don't swear. Like, my only person I surround myself with who swears is my brother now, and I'm letting him he'll get there. But everybody else, they don't swear. And so I feel bad when I swear in front of them. I'm like, if they're not doing it, why do I think I can? Like, I don't want to. But yeah, it's just the conviction though that you'll feel in the discernment. Like, it's crazy. Like, even when I'm getting dressed in the morning or going to the gym, like, it does, like, there's this like little voice in the back of my head. And it's funny because before, like I said, I thought it was myself. I thought it was me, but it's God. It's God being like, girl, like, why are you putting that on? Like, what, like, come on. And I've just shifted the way I carry myself. I shifted the way I view other things. And I understand, the thing is too, I have more empathy for others, and the way I present myself, I understand that it affects them too. And I want them to have a good, positive experience with like their interaction with me, you know? And so I put thought into other than myself, other people. So that is through the way I dress. That is through the way I speak. Like, these make an impact on others. And again, that's because God and the Holy Spirit is like speaking to me and reminding me of these things. But these are things I just didn't realize before because I didn't have the perspectives and the relationships that I do now. It's just crazy. But you will feel more like a sinner because you'll feel like everything you're doing is wrong. Like, there's still things I got to work on, you guys. There's still a lot of stuff that, like, I feel like I sin every day. But the thing is, sins were created because it's a way of God protecting us. And so everything that's bad, it's actually for good. Like I said, negative to a positive. Being a sinner, like, we're going to mess up. We're going to make mistakes. That's why God forgives all sins. But it's just a way to protect us and kind of like alert us and be like, oh, don't do that. You know, like, reminder, like, I'm protecting you. Like, that's not going to lead you down the right path. So don't do that. Like, that's the enemy. That's what he wants. He's giving you pleasure. He's giving you whatever. Like, don't go that way. Go the other way. It's not as easy putting on like layers, and like not showing your body as much, because it's like, I do feel good when I like wear something, cute and tight. It's like, but then again, it's like, do I really feel good, or like, why am I feeling that way? And that's a conversation that I have with myself. And I think the one thing I'm working on right now is the way to dress in the gym. It's a bit hard just because I do wear the booty tight spandex shorts and sports bras. That's what everyone wears. And I don't walk into the gym wearing that for other people. It's just like what I feel good in, what I feel confident in, what I feel efficient and like, agile in at the gym. But it's like it's a work in progress. Sorry, I'm yawning. It's getting late. But you'll just feel a lot of discernment and conviction, and I think that's good, because that means the Holy Spirit's working through you. So don't get discouraged. Don't push him away because you feel like you're a worse person. You're going to feel like that. But it's a good thing, and you have to understand there's positive, and you got to find the positive in every situation, even when it's hard. But like, it makes it so much easier when you do have a relationship with God, because it's like you do trust his plan and you do know he's working for you. This just reminded me of another topic that I talked about, and I really want to emphasize this, is life happens for you, not to you. Don't pull the victim card. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you, and you have to understand that you need to switch your perspective and realize that all these bad things are happening for you. Like I said, the episode audio being messed up, that didn't happen to me, that happened for me, because now I can re-record and I'm sharing this in a better way. This episode's going better, and the quality is going to be better, and I'm holding myself accountable to what I said, where I wanted to like level up the podcast, and I feel better about it, and I would have felt guilty laying in bed if I knew I uploaded that like crappy quality. I would have felt guilty. I would have felt bad. Like, I want to give my best to you guys, and that's something I'm really like prioritizing, is like putting my all into it. And again, like, I just had to understand, like, it's happening for me, it's not happening to me. And that's in everything in life, like relationships and stuff. Like, God's going to pull people out of your life and relationships out of your life for you. Like, I would take so much offense to it, if a guy didn't like me back, or it didn't work out, or I got ghosted, or there's just situations where I try to keep going back to the same guy and it was just never working out. And I thought it was me. I thought it was like, it tore me apart, just because it was tearing my confidence apart. Cause I'm like, why is this happening? Like, I'm not good enough. Like, I was taking like a poor me mentality, but now it's like, I have the understanding that God was putting as many barriers and roadblocks in its way because those weren't for me. That wasn't what he intended. And thank God they didn't work out. And thank God I listened, because like, now I've met the greatest people ever, and I'm the happiest I've ever been. And I understand what I do deserve. And it's like embarrassing to think back, like the stuff I was seeking out 2 months ago, and the stuff I was putting up with, and the things that men would do and say that I would let like impact me. Like, no. It's not all about you. It's God trying to redirect you. And like I always say, rejection is God's redirection. Okay. Sometimes he's got to do it the hard way so you learn, because you're going to continue to go through the same cycle until you learn. God's not going to level you up until you're ready. So he's going to keep putting you through the same lesson until you learn it. I was literally doing this, you guys. I wouldn't say dating, but like talking to the same type of guys, and it was never working out. And it was the same situation, a little bit of a different lesson from every guy, but ultimately it started and ended the same way. And I'm like, I was getting so stressed out. I was getting so like exhausted. I'm like, Lord, I feel like I've been through it all. Until I had the perspective switch of being like, you know what? I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be in my waiting season. I'm going to work on me. I'm going to create my version of myself and elevate myself to what I want in a man, so I can attract a man that I want. Because I was down here, you guys. Like, if you're watching the podcast, like low, like my standards were low. But again, that's how I was coming off myself. Like, what I was presenting is what I was attracting. So I'm like, okay, something's got to change. It wasn't until I had the perspective change did I meet somebody so much better, you guys. Like, unbelievably. Like, and it happened like this, like within a week. And it's not all going to happen like that. But let me tell you, Sadie Robertson literally had a podcast, and I was listening to it, and she was saying how she was like holding on to all these relationships, these like kind of half, it was just for like the attention. We've all done it. We all Snapchat that one boy who we know is not going to go anywhere, but they entertain us. That was me. I had like a couple guys, and I was like, it was never going anywhere. It we both knew it. You know what I'm saying? It was just so a waste of time and energy. It was when Taylor, my best friend, was in town during the half marathon. We were having a heart to heart, and I was telling her, I'm like, I'm cutting them all off. Like, I listened to that podcast with Sadie, and she cut them all off, and she goes, I met my husband the next day. And I was like, you know what? Like, how do we expect there to be room in our heart and our life for the right person when we're putting all of our time and energy and taking up all that space with the wrong people? And I was like, whoa. And so I cut all these guys off. Kid you not, the next week I met one of the greatest guys ever. And I'm like, whoa. Like, whoa. It really happens like that. And it's like, you have to go through the lessons and you have to go through the understanding and the waiting season. I don't know how long it's going to be, but you got to trust it, and it's going to be as long as it needs to be. And again, like, it's just so crazy. Like, all of the things that I see in life that I'm like, all right, like, he's right. Like, he's right. Like, he's doing it. Like, I just thank God that I didn't, settle, and I didn't stay in those relationships, and I didn't fall into the pleasure and the instant gratification any longer, because I was falling into that. And now the second I cut it off, you guys, my life has just been nothing but better. Like, it has literally been improving in every aspect. And I'm not trying to like say that in like a brag, egotistical way, but it's just the truth. And I want that for you guys. So I want you guys to understand that, like, you can also do that, but you got to cut the chains. They said, I was literally in a song at church today, and it was talking about how, like, God can cut those chains and like free you from it. And that's how I felt. Like, I felt like I was holding on to all of that, like, past, and I was scared to cut it loose, because it's scary to like think you're going to be alone. But again, you're never going to be alone, because God will be with you. And it's just crazy. I'm not lying. Like, all this is true. This is literally all that's been going through my head in the past, like I said, 2 months. That's a lot. 6 weeks, you guys. We're only halfway through February, which is actually crazy, because I feel like it was just Christmas. But like, come on. Like, I can't make this stuff up, And it's just, even now that I like realize this stuff, I'll be talking to my friends, and again, another friend's going through like kind of a heartbreak and a waiting period. And I'm like, girl, you got to get yourself up, and you got to create the version of yourself that you want to become and attract, because that's what's going to attract. Like, her situation's a bit different. Like, they both just had to break up to grow better themselves, but they want to ultimately be together in the end. But it's like, they know they have to build their foundation themselves. And I'm like, you can't sit and, kind of sulk and feel bad for yourself a little bit. Like, I get you got to like go through the pain. It's a process. I'm not saying like don't go through your emotions and grieving and stuff, but like, at the end of the day, you got to pick yourself up, and you got to work for yourself, and you can only do it for yourself. But then again, it's like, God will put that right person in your life, and you have to trust it. You have to trust it that everything happens for a reason. And it does. Like, time and time again, God's proven that to me. And it's just really, it's just so like relieving, it brings so much peace and calmness to your life when you do trust in God, because he will deliver. And you just got to talk to him more. You got to pray about it more. Like, that's one thing I started doing so much more, is praying and talking to God, because the more you talk to him, the more he responds, and you have those conversations, you have that conviction, the discernment, like, those things start to happen the more you talk to him. He wants to talk to you. He wants you to ask him for help, and he wants to help. Like, he's a loving God, and he wants what's best for you, and he wants to love you. He does love you, so he wants to show you that. And you got to ask for it, though, or you got to like be there and you have to open up the opportunity for it to happen, And so, yeah, I don't know, you guys. I'm just like, first off, do you like the style of this episode where I'm just chatty? Because there's like, I literally just turned the camera on, the mic on, and we're rolling with it. This is what's on the mind. This is what's going on in my life. But it's just like, right now I'm just like in a season of like a lot of like joy, like I said, but I feel like I'm on the brink of something big, and it's so exciting, because I feel like I've been building this up for like 2 years, but I do struggle with like I said, I think I said earlier in this episode, I was talking about how I like, my other people see more in me than I see in myself, but it's like God started to shed that like light on me, and I've realized like what I am capable of, and I just feel like there's like a lot coming, and I've been in like a waiting season with what's next. Everyone kind of asks me what's next, and I just didn't know, but I can feel it coming, and I just like know something really exciting is about to happen. I don't know, am I manifesting it? Am I speaking into existence? Words are powerful, but like, I really do feel like something's coming. And I'm really excited, because obviously I get to take y'all along with me. And I don't know what it's going to be. I have no idea. But it's just a really good feeling to have. But again, it's like I've had to do all this work to get here, and I want you guys to understand, like, it takes time, but it's the hardest switches, but they're so simple. Like, you can do them, you know what I'm saying? They're manageable, they're doable, but you every day got to actively do it. And a lot of it's just about your perspective on life and understanding, and like not having tunnel vision and having a wider, broad perspective, and like getting other people's perspectives and appreciating that and appreciating community. And there's just so much that falls into it. But anyway, I'm going to end the episode here because I think that's all that I have on my heart to share. But thank you guys so much for listening. I seriously appreciate every single one of you so much. The messages from you guys, like, my heart just explodes every single time. Every single time I open them and we're chatting, and like when I say it truly means so much to me, you guys have no idea. Like, without you, I would not be where I am today if I haven't already made that prevalent in this episode. But like, it just blows my mind, and I'm so eternally grateful for like all the love and the support, and the fact that you guys trust me to like give you advice and you hear me out. Like, that means a lot. Like, I never had any little sisters, and most of my listeners are girls, and so I feel like you guys are like, you give me that ability to like share, because I can't share all this with Jake. I try, but like, he doesn't want to hear me out all the time, and it's just really cool to know I can help people in that aspect. And so I appreciate you guys like allowing me to like help share my advice with you and my experiences and be like vulnerable. Like, you guys allow me to feel the ability to like open up and be vulnerable. Like, I share a lot with y'all. Not everything. There's just some things that I do keep private because that's what I feel is necessary. But like, I share a lot. Like, there's nothing, I don't like really cover much up, you know? And so, I appreciate that, like, I can feel allowed to do that with you guys on here, and it does mean the world. And I feel like I have the best little community on here, and you guys are the best. But anyway, okay, I'm gonna be done rambling. So if this is day, night, afternoon, whatever, I hope you're having an amazing day, and I just adore you, and I love you. God loves you, and we'll chat next week. Bye, guys.